Never in the history of the United States of America has poorly conjugated English hit you to the core so much. Typically, if I hear someone not speaking good English, I just kind of roll my eyes. But give us free? Hell yeah! Amistad, released in 1997, and is directed by Stevem Spielberg, who, you know who Stevem Spielberg is. If you don't, shame on you, you should know. But honestly, if you don't, he's one of the best filmmakers ever. And the film stars Djimon Hounsou, Matthew McConaughey, Anthony Hopkins, Morgan Freeman, Stellan Skarsgård, and Pete Postlethwaite. Cinque, along with 43 other Africans, are aboard the slave ship known as La Amistad, traveling from Cuba to the United States. But Cinque stages a revolt and the Africans take control of the ship. But they are eventually picked up by the US Navy and they are sent to imprisonment until the courts can decide whose property they are. Should they be sent to Spain? Should they be sold into slavery? Or should they be sent back to their homeland as free people? Well, there are several trials that happen to argue that point, where we see magnificent performances from Postlethwaite, McConaughey, and of course Anthony Hopkins. There you see, 1997. It wasn't all bad. Hell, if the Academy Awards back then used the same formula that they do nowadays to figure out who's nominated for Best Picture, I guarantee you that Amistad would have been nominated for Best Picture. But at the time, there were only 5 Best Picture nominee spots, and there was another movie that kind of took place on the high seas that kind of swept everything that year. But this film, what a great look at such a terrible time in our history. We had just declared ourselves an independent country, but there was still so much hate between the Confederate States and the Union States. And then plus on top of that, any time that's represented by slavery is just a shit time. I mean, if you ever wanted to know just how evil and how cruel humanity can be, just look at slavery. There you go. And I'll be completely honest, I could never fully understand the pain and the suffering that the Africans went through during this time of the slave trade, or during the civil rights movement, or during just racial prejudice in general. But I really try to respect the trials and the hardships that they went through, and are still going through in several different countries, including this one. And if you want a nice PG-13 rated representation of this time period, here you go. But even if you're not looking for that, you're just looking for a good film, by all means, pop this one in. The production design of this film is beautiful. In particular, the costuming. From the formal attire of the 1800s lawyers and lawmen to Matthew McConaughey's character who is trying to aspire to be those people, but just by looking at them, you can tell the funds just aren't there. Plus, I love the costume design of the Mende people. No, they really weren't wearing their native garb for the majority of this film, but I loved how they try to take the colonial garb and try to make it into garb from their homeland. And speaking of the Mende, this story of theirs is very powerful. Just imagine being betrayed by your own people and sold into slavery across the sea to a country whose language you don't speak. And what are you being sold for? Guns. You know, those things that all of us need to have. And I just can't imagine that. It's unfathomable to me. And then plus you have someone of non-Mende descent who's trying to represent them in court, and he can't speak their language, which also has to be frustrating. Both people are trying to tell their story, and they just can't communicate it to each other. It's a wonderful dilemma to have when it comes to filmmaking. In real life, gosh, that sucks. McConaughey's character, he tries and tries and tries, but he just can't do it effectively, so he enlists the help of John Quincy Adams, the former president of the United States, played by Anthony Hopkins. Oh my god. What a performance. And I forgot, it's one of the best performances I've ever seen. He is so nuanced in his character. And Anthony Hopkins, to me, has always looked like a very old man. But in this film, he makes himself look ancient. Whether it's with his voice or whether it's with his posture, it's great. And his line delivery, it felt like he was making up the lines as he went along, which is a very good thing. When it comes to acting, it's supposed to feel like the actors are saying the lines for the very first time. But with all the subtle, oh, what? Huh? Oh, all those little tiny subtleties just added to the performance. You know, it's interesting, for him being such a old, decrepit man in this film, but every time he was on screen, there was so much energy and so much freshness to the film that he was just a breath of fresh air whenever he was on screen. And at the end, with his final monologue in front of the Supreme Court, is one of the best monologues I have ever heard. It's over 10 minutes long, and it's captivating the whole time. Needless to say, after I watched this movie this time, I immediately found the script online, and I started memorizing that monologue. And that spark in me hasn't been lit in years, so any film or any monologue that ignites that passion of memorizing lines and acting in me, yeah, 2 thumbs way up. So in the end, Amistad is tremendous. It's a real account about a group of Africans that were taken against their will and sold into slavery. And these trials of this group of Africans was so important to American history that many scholars would say that this was the spark that lit the fire that was the American Civil War. But the production design is beautiful, and the performances in this film are stellar, particularly from Djimon and Anthony Hopkins. And it's a great depiction of one of the worst time in our history as a species, and I definitely recommend it to you if you've never seen it before. It'd probably work well in any history class too. Just putting that out there. So I'm gonna give Amistad 5 out of 5 Blu-rays. Alright everyone, now comes my favorite part in my videos where I randomly select which movie I'm watching next. Let's take a look. Date Night! I own this film, and I have never seen it before. I'm pretty sure that this was just a cheap pickup from one of those resale shops. All I know is that Steve Carell and Tina Fey are in here. I can't remember when I picked it up or why, but yeah, I guess it's a comedy, hopefully? Oh no, I would assume by the poster with them kind of like shoulder to shoulder going, oh us, that it's probably a comedy in the romantic sense. Yeah, that's all I know, and we'll talk about it next time. So everyone, have you seen Amistad? What did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, please comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And when you're done commenting, please like and subscribe to my channel so you know the next time I'm posting my next movie review. And make sure you stay tuned for my Journey to Episode 100 and Beyond series, where from episode 71 to 100, I'm going to be going over a 30 movies a day listing. All of these will be released leading up to episode 100, so please stay tuned for that. So everyone, I will see you next time with my review of Date Night. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.